9 archaeological discoveries that changed history, but scientists still can't explain. There are secrets that have been buried deep beneath the earth for thousands of years. There are discoveries that have sparked debates among scientists for decades, yet still have no final answers. And there are archaeological findings so strange that every time they are revealed, they leave the entire world in shock. A perfectly preserved dinosaur embryo found inside an egg that is over 70 million years old. An ancient village that suddenly emerged from the bottom of a lake only to disappear as if it had never existed. Or a tiny coin believed by some to bear the true likeness of Jesus Christ. All of these are real mysteries, and to this day, many questions about them remain unanswered. Hello and welcome to the Ancient History Channel. My friends, history is not just a collection of dry numbers or events recorded in textbooks. At times, history feels like a massive book with many of its pages torn away. Every archaeological excavation is like discovering a new missing piece of the puzzle, helping us better understand the world that existed before modern humans appeared. But what is truly fascinating is that the more we discover, the more we realize how many mysteries still lie beyond our imagination. So in today's journey, we will travel back in time together to explore 9 archaeological discoveries that shook history and left researchers in awe. These may include skeletons bearing evidence of brutal punishment from 3,000 years ago, ancient journals revealing secrets about the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza, a mysterious terracotta statue found inside the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, or ancient burial sites that suggest the existence of kings who have completely disappeared from historical records. Each discovery opens the door to a fascinating story, but at the same time, they also leave behind mysteries that even modern scientists have not been able to fully explain. So what really happened in the past? Is everything we know about history truly the whole truth? Are you ready to join me in seeking answers to these questions? If so, let's begin our journey into the secrets buried for thousands of years and discover why these findings continue to astonish the world to this very day. The Mayan cenote of death reveals a terrifying sacrificial secret buried for thousands of years in Mexico. Do you believe that deep within the dense jungles of modern-day Mexico, there still exists a place once considered a gateway to the world of the gods? A place so beautiful that anyone who sees it would be amazed, yet at the same time hides terrifying secrets that send chills down the spine of scientists when they uncover the truth beneath its depths. What is even more astonishing is that all of these stories are connected to one of the greatest civilizations in human history, the ancient Maya civilization. If you don't believe it, let's travel back in time 4,000 years. At that time, the Maya began building their civilization in a region called Cuello in Central America. Over time, they developed into multiple branches, with the largest group migrating toward the area around today's Gulf of Mexico. There, they built magnificent cities and architectural wonders that still astonish the modern world. And when talking about the Maya, perhaps no place is more famous than the ancient city of Chichen Itza, located on Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. Did you know that even the name Chichen Itza carries a special meaning? In the Mayan language, Chichen means mouth of the well, and Itza refers to the people of the Itza. In other words, Chichen Itza means the mouth of the well of the Itza people. This name did not appear by coincidence. The city was built in a relatively dry region where water was essential for survival. Because of this, natural sinkholes formed in limestone caves became the most valuable resource in the entire region. However, what made Chichen Itza truly famous was not only its massive pyramids or impressive structures. About 0.9 miles from the city center, there are 2 natural sinkholes, each about 200 feet in diameter. One was used for daily life and agriculture. The other had a completely different purpose. This was the sacred cenote, the site of bloody sacrificial rituals dedicated to the rain god. The ancient Maya believed that gods controlled every aspect of life. Among them, the rain god and the sun god were especially revered because they determined the survival of crops and harvests. According to surviving ancient records, whenever a drought occurred, the Maya believed the rain god was angry. To appease this divine wrath, they would select a virgin girl around 14 years old as a sacrifice. For the Maya at that time, this was not considered punishment, but rather a sacred honor. They believed that once the girl was lowered into the cenote, she would become a servant of the water god and live in a richer, more abundant world than anything on earth. Even during years of good weather, priests would still perform similar rituals to show gratitude to the gods. On the day of the ceremony, thousands of people from all over would gather at the temple next to the sacred cenote. The chosen girl would be dressed in the finest garments, blessed by shamans, and given a drink to help calm her nerves. At dawn, the procession would begin, traveling along a path about 1,300 feet long, leading to the sacred sinkhole. Amid the sound of drums and mystical prayers, the young girl would be lifted by guards and thrown into the deep waters below. Immediately afterward, the crowd would begin dancing and singing, while wealthy participants would throw gold, silver, jewels, and valuable offerings into the cenote to pray for peace and a prosperous harvest. Centuries passed, and the Mayan Empire gradually declined after Europeans arrived in the Americas around the 16th century. Human sacrifice rituals eventually came to an end. Today, in the village of Yasuna near Chichen Itza, locals still maintain traditional rain-calling ceremonies, but they have replaced human offerings with goats and chickens. Visitors can still witness reenactments of ancient rituals, complete with shamans, mystical music, and traditional costumes, like a journey back in time. Evidence of these terrifying sacrificial rituals was uncovered during archaeological excavations, where researchers found more than 100 human skeletons, along with countless gold, silver, jewelry, and ancient artifacts. These discoveries have helped scientists better understand the physical appearance, culture, beliefs, and development of the Maya civilization. Perhaps each skeleton resting at the bottom of that deep cenote is still telling the story of a once mighty civilization. One that, like all others in human history, could not escape the rise and fall of time. The ancient world is truly terrifying, isn't it? The 3,000-year-old skeleton that reveals one of ancient China's most brutal punishments. In the ancient fields of Shanxi province, China, once considered the cradle of the famed Zhou dynasty civilization, archaeologists discovered an ancient tomb containing a skeleton that immediately drew the attention of researchers. At first glance, it appeared to be just an ordinary burial site, lying quietly underground for nearly 3,000 years. But as scientists began to examine it more closely, they realized that this skeleton held a heartbreaking story about law, punishment, and human fate in ancient Chinese society. What shocked experts was not the burial goods or rare artifacts typically found in archaeological excavations. Instead, the secret was hidden within the bones of the deceased. The remains belonged to a woman between 30 and 35 years old, with one unusual and striking feature. Her right foot had been amputated while she was still alive. As you can imagine, thousands of years ago, long before modern painkillers or advanced surgical techniques, losing a part of the body was not only a physical tragedy, but a lifelong sentence of suffering. So what happened to this woman? Who was she? And why did she endure such a horrific punishment? In fact, the skeleton was first discovered during an archaeological excavation in 1999 near the city of Baoji in Shanxi province, China. However, at that time, most of the attention was focused on the artifacts, and the skeleton itself was not studied in detail. It was only many years later, as science and technology advanced, that researchers returned to examine it more closely. A study conducted by experts at Peking University produced astonishing results. Researcher Li Nun and his team used X-ray imaging and modern bioarchaeological analysis to determine the identity and condition of the woman. The results showed that she did not suffer from diseases such as leprosy, cancer, diabetes, or any severe trauma that would have required medical amputation. Even more, the structure of her tibia and fibula showed clear signs of intentional cutting, proving that her right foot had been deliberately removed. This allowed scientists to rule out any medical explanation. Instead, all evidence pointed to a far more chilling conclusion. This woman was a victim of the Yue punishment, one of the most brutal forms of punishment in ancient Chinese history. Did you know that in ancient China, there was once a system of 5 major punishments that lasted for nearly 1,000 years before being abolished around 200 BC? These punishments included facial tattooing, nose cutting, foot amputation, castration, and execution. Among them, the Yue punishment, amputation of one or both feet, was one of the most feared. According to historical records and bronze vessel engravings discovered in nearby tombs, those who committed minor crimes would have their left foot amputated, while serious offenders would lose their right foot. This suggests that the woman from Shanxi may have committed a very serious crime under the laws of that time. What is truly tragic is that many victims of this punishment did not survive due to blood loss or infection. Even those who lived were forced to endure extremely harsh lives afterward. They were often ostracized by society, looked down upon, and struggled to find any means of survival. Many were only able to take on the lowest-ranking jobs, such as guarding animal pens, a subtle form of humiliation in ancient society. However, this particular case revealed something remarkable. Analysis of the skeleton showed that the woman did not die immediately after the punishment. Instead, she survived for at least another 5 years. This suggests that she may have received care from her family or those around her, helping her endure the most difficult period after the tragedy. Today, this skeleton discovered in Shanxi is not just an archaeological artifact. It is the first fully studied scientific case of foot amputation punishment in ancient China. Thanks to this discovery, historians now have valuable insight into the legal system, social beliefs, and human lives that existed nearly 3 millennia ago. As you can see, the ancient world is full of mysteries and horrors. Even a single skeleton lying silently beneath the ground can tell an entire haunting chapter of history, one that time itself almost erased forever. The 10,000-year-old female figurine in Turkey, a mystery of humanity's earliest civilization. Hey my friend, have you ever wondered what life was like over 10,000 years ago when modern cities didn't even exist? What did people think about? What did they believe in? And how did they see themselves? To be honest, those questions are not easy to answer, right? But you know what? Sometimes the answers to questions that seem impossible to solve are buried deep beneath the ground, preserved for thousands of years, just waiting to be discovered. And this time, a remarkable discovery in Turkey has caught the attention of archaeologists around the world. At the Çatalhöyük archaeological site, located in the city of Konya, Turkey, researchers uncovered an extremely valuable artifact during excavations led by Professor Ian Hodder from Stanford University, USA. On September 13th, the Turkish Ministry of Culture and Tourism officially announced the discovery, and it immediately drew widespread interest from the academic community. The artifact is a nearly intact female figurine dating back to around 8,000 to 8,500 BC, meaning it is over 10,000 years old, from the Neolithic period. Of course, what makes this figurine so special is not only its incredible age. Experts describe it as depicting a woman with an unusually full figure, about 6.7 inches long and weighing nearly 2.2 pounds, crafted from marble. Even through a modern lens, the details of the figurine reveal the astonishing craftsmanship of people who lived tens of thousands of years before us. Archaeologists found the figurine buried beneath ancient soil layers alongside fragments of volcanic glass. Upon closer study, they noticed that the head, hairstyle, hands placed beneath the chest, and small feet all reflect highly distinctive features considered characteristic of the Çatalhöyük culture. However, what amazed experts most was the exceptional state of preservation and the remarkable precision of its carved details. Just imagine, over 10,000 years ago, long before machines or any form of advanced technology existed, humans were still capable of creating an artwork with such precision and aesthetic sophistication. What does that tell us? Doesn't it suggest that this figurine is not just an ordinary archaeological artifact, but more like a time portal, allowing us to glimpse the life, beliefs, and culture of some of the earliest people on Earth? Even more fascinating is the fact that Çatalhöyük was not an ordinary settlement. It is considered one of the oldest and largest known human settlements ever discovered. The site has provided countless important clues about a major turning point in human history, the shift from small villages to larger, more complex communities, laying the foundation for the first cities in history. Who exactly was the woman depicted in this figurine? Was she a goddess worshipped by the people, a symbol of fertility and prosperity, or simply an artistic representation of daily life in Çatalhöyük? Unfortunately, even after more than 10,000 years, these mysteries still have no definitive answers. And that is exactly what makes this small figurine one of the most fascinating archaeological discoveries, helping us understand the earliest chapters in the long story of human civilization. Two mysterious tombs beneath a Mayan pyramid in Guatemala, revealing the legacy of the powerful serpent dynasty. Deep within the vast tropical rainforests of northern Guatemala, a country in Central America, ancient ruins have remained silent for more than 1,000 years. Every tree root and every stone in this place seems to preserve stories that history has long forgotten. Beneath the thick layers of soil and tangled vines lie the remains of a civilization that once astonished the world with its advanced achievements in architecture, astronomy, and culture. This is the legendary Maya civilization. For centuries, the collapse of the Maya has remained one of the greatest mysteries in global archaeology. Vast cities were abandoned, grand palaces were slowly swallowed by the jungle, and the names of many powerful kings survived only in unreadable ancient inscriptions. But sometimes, history speaks again through discoveries buried deep underground. This time, in the ancient city of Holmol in northern Guatemala, archaeologists conducted an important excavation beneath two ancient pyramids. And in a place seemingly forgotten by time, they uncovered two ancient tombs belonging to the Maya civilization. From the very first traces, experts realized these were not ordinary burials. And indeed, as they went deeper, the team discovered several remarkable artifacts. Among them were a preserved tibia bone, jade-inlaid teeth, and most notably, a pendant depicting a serpent king. These findings immediately drew the attention of archaeologists as they may be linked to the highest ruling elite of ancient Maya society. According to archaeologist Francisco Estrada Belli, who directly participated in the research, the pendant likely belonged to Uknum T. Chan, a sacred ruler of the Qin dynasty. This dynasty is considered one of the most powerful forces in the ancient Maya world. Its kings were known as the Serpent Kings, a symbol of supreme authority and widespread domination. Interestingly, Holmol was once a thriving settlement during the classic Maya period, which lasted from 250 to 900 AD. This was a time when Maya writing, art, and culture flourished across what is now Central America and southern Mexico. However, behind this prosperity were constant wars between city-states struggling for power and influence. It was through these conflicts that the Maya Empire under the leadership of the Qin Serpent Kings gradually emerged. They once ruled vast territories and held supreme status in the Maya world. But strangely, just a few generations later, this once powerful dynasty almost completely disappeared from history. Time erased their traces so thoroughly that centuries later, no one clearly knew who they were or how they had once existed. Thanks to excavations at Holmol and other archaeological sites, scientists are slowly piecing together these lost fragments of history. Each artifact discovered, each tomb uncovered, is like turning a page of an ancient book that had been buried for thousands of years. The Maya civilization is widely regarded as one of the most brilliant civilizations of the ancient Americas. The Maya people lived on the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico for around 2,000 years and established numerous advanced city-states. However, most of these kingdoms declined between the 9th and 10th centuries AD due to various factors. Only a few regions survived until the Spanish conquest in the 16th century. That conquest destroyed countless structures, documents, and priceless cultural heritage of the Maya people. Therefore, the discovery of two ancient tombs beneath the pyramids of Holmol is not just an archaeological achievement, it is also a rare opportunity for humanity to better understand the rise, development, and collapse of a once dominant empire in Central America. So what do you think? Deep in the forests of Guatemala, are there still many hidden secrets of the Maya Serpent Kings waiting to be uncovered in the future? Or do you have a different perspective on this discovery? If so, feel free to let me know in the comments below this video. The 4,500-year-old diary that reveals how the Great Pyramid of Giza was built, a truth far different from what we once believed. For thousands of years, the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt has been regarded as one of the most mysterious structures ever built by humans. Every time people look up at that massive monument standing in the desert, countless questions arise. How were the ancient Egyptians able to transport multi-ton stone blocks without modern machinery? Who were the people who actually built this monumental structure? And what was their daily life like during those years of intense labor? For centuries, these questions remained largely unanswered. But in 2013, a remarkable archaeological discovery in the Wadi al-Jarf area along Egypt's Red Sea coast shocked researchers around the world. Inside ancient limestone caves that had been sealed for more than 4,500 years, archaeologists discovered around 30 of the oldest known papyrus scrolls ever found. What is truly astonishing is that these documents not only recorded the operations of an ancient harbor, but also contained diary entries written by a man named Merer, who personally participated in the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Few people know that Wadi al-Jarf was once a highly active economic and maritime hub during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu, the king who ordered the construction of the Great Pyramid. The site was first discovered in 1823 by British researcher John Gardner Wilkinson. However, it was not until 2008, when French Egyptologist Pierre Tallet led large-scale excavations, that its true significance began to emerge. Through research, archaeologists confirmed that Wadi al-Jarf was an important seaport dating back approximately 4,500 years. From this location, material transportation for the construction of the Great Pyramid was organized in a highly systematic way. The archaeological site stretches for several miles between the Nile River and the Red Sea and includes storage facilities, living quarters, docks, and, most notably, around 30 large limestone caves used to store goods and boats. It was in one of these caves that the precious papyrus scrolls were discovered on March 24, 2013. What is astonishing is that after more than 4 millennia buried in the harsh desert, these writings still contained enough information to reconstruct the daily lives of the people who built one of the greatest wonders of the ancient world. At the center of these records is Merer, a foreman in charge of about 200 workers. In his diary, Merer carefully documented the tasks his team carried out over a period of roughly 3 months during the pyramid's construction. These records show that ancient Egyptian workers transported white limestone blocks from the Tura quarry to the Giza construction site by boat along the Nile River. Every shipment was carefully recorded, monitored, and accounted for. One entry even describes in detail a 3-day journey from the quarry to the base of the pyramid before the workers returned for the next shipment. The diary also unintentionally reveals the identity of one of the most important supervisors of the project. This was Onkaf, the half-brother of Pharaoh Khufu, who held the title Overseer of all the king's works. This is one of the rare direct pieces of evidence about the administrative system behind this monumental construction. But perhaps the most fascinating detail for historians lies elsewhere. For a long time, many believed that the Great Pyramid was built by large numbers of enslaved people. However, Merer's records tell a very different story. He carefully documented the workers' living conditions, including their food rations and compensation. At that time, the Egyptians did not use currency, so labor was paid in grain. The amount received depended on each worker's role and responsibility. Their daily meals were also far more diverse than many would expect. The diary mentions leavened bread, flatbread, meat, dates, honey, beans, and even beer. These details suggest that the workers who built the Great Pyramid were not enslaved laborers, but rather skilled workers who were organized, managed, and fairly compensated. After more than 4,500 years buried inside the limestone caves of Wadi al-Jarf, Merer's writings have become a gateway that takes us back to the age of Pharaoh Khufu. Thanks to this discovery, one of the greatest mysteries of the ancient world has finally begun to be unraveled, helping us better understand the people who helped create a wonder that still amazes humanity to this day. And isn't this discovery truly fascinating and incredible, my friends? The 70-million-year-old dinosaur embryo preserved inside an egg. Did you know that the world of archaeology and paleontology is truly fascinating? Some fossils allow us to understand what long-extinct creatures once looked like. Others even enable scientists to reconstruct entire ancient ecosystems. But sometimes an extraordinary discovery appears that brings us closer than ever to the very moment life was about to begin, tens of millions of years ago. A perfect example of this is a dinosaur egg discovered in Jiangxi Province, eastern China, which still preserved an almost intact embryo that had remained undisturbed for over 70 million years. When researchers first examined this specimen, they could hardly believe what they were seeing. Inside the fossilized eggshell was the skeleton of a baby dinosaur, still clearly preserved in a tightly curled posture. This rare discovery quickly drew the attention of paleontologists around the world, as it looked almost like a snapshot captured right at the moment an ancient creature was about to be born. Because of this, scientists named the specimen Baby Yingliang. It was discovered in rock layers dating back to the late Cretaceous period in Jiangxi Province, China, approximately 72 to 66 million years ago. At a time when humans did not yet exist and dinosaurs still dominated the continents, this tiny creature lay inside its egg, waiting to hatch. However, some catastrophic event must have occurred that prevented this process from ever being completed. Ironically, this is what allowed one of the most valuable fossils ever discovered to be preserved. According to research conducted by the Yingliang Stone Nature History Museum, China University of Geosciences, and scholars from Taiwan and Canada, the dinosaur egg is oval-shaped, measuring about 3.5 inches in diameter and 6.7 inches in length. Inside was an embryo preserved in an exceptionally complete state. Scientists estimate that if the animal had successfully hatched, it would have measured about 10.6 inches from head to tail. If it had continued to grow into adulthood, it could have reached a length of 6.5 to 9.8 feet. What particularly fascinated experts was the structure of the skull, spine, and limb bones of the embryo. After detailed analysis, they concluded that it most likely belonged to a group of duck-billed dinosaurs known as hadrosaurids. This group was among the most common herbivorous dinosaurs during the late age of dinosaurs and lived across many regions of the planet. However, the greatest value of Baby Yingliang is not only its classification. What truly excited scientists was the embryo's unusual posture inside the egg. By comparing it with other dinosaur embryos and observing the behavior of modern birds, researchers found a striking similarity. They discovered that just before hatching, the dinosaur embryo performed body positioning movements very similar to those seen in modern birds today. In other words, this tiny creature was curling its body and preparing to break out of its egg in a way remarkably similar to its modern descendants, birds. This discovery provides important evidence of the deep evolutionary connection between birds and dinosaurs. Although fossilized dinosaur eggs have been found around the world since 1859, most of them no longer contain preserved embryos. In China, which is known for a large number of late Cretaceous egg fossils, cases with fully preserved embryos are extremely rare. Because of this, Baby Yingliang is considered one of the most valuable fossils ever discovered. You know, every fossil tells a story about the past, but Baby Yingliang is something even more special than that. It not only helps scientists better understand how dinosaurs reproduced and developed, but also gives us a rare glimpse of a moment frozen for tens of millions of years. A creature that never got the chance to enter the world, yet became a key to unlocking some of the deepest secrets of the age of dinosaurs. Truly remarkable, isn't it? The reclining terracotta figure with hands pressed to the ground in the tomb of Qin Shi Huang. When people think of the tomb of Qin Shi Huang in Shanxi Province, China, they often immediately imagine the magnificent terracotta army, with thousands of soldiers standing in orderly formation as if ready to march into real battle. However, within this world-famous archaeological complex lies a very unusual figure. So unusual that archaeologists have spent more than 2 decades studying and restoring it. What makes it especially remarkable is that its secret is not hidden in its outward appearance, but rather revealed through a tiny fingerprint preserved for more than 2,000 years. The story begins in March 1974, when local farmers accidentally discovered the famous terracotta army within the burial complex of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor to unify China. This discovery quickly became one of the most shocking archaeological finds of the 20th century. Since then, archaeologists have uncovered more than 8,000 terracotta figures, along with countless chariots, weapons, and other valuable artifacts buried deep underground. What astonished researchers is that although all of these figures were made from clay and fired at relatively low temperatures, no two statues are exactly alike. From facial features and body shape to hairstyles and original coloring, each one carries unique characteristics, creating the impression of a real army guarding the eternal rest of a powerful emperor. However, among these thousands of terracotta figures, experts discovered one that was completely different from the rest. Instead of standing upright like the typical soldiers, this figure is lying on its back on the ground, with its knees bent, feet spread outward, and both hands pressed against the ground behind it. This unusual posture puzzled archaeologists, as no terracotta figure had ever been found in such a position before. The statue was excavated from a burial pit of about 7,500 square feet, located in the southeastern area of Qin Shi Huang's mausoleum. After many years of research and restoration, on June 11, 2022, coinciding with Cultural and Natural Heritage Day, the museum in Xi'an, Shanxi Province, officially displayed this unique artifact to the public. After more than 2 millennia underground, the figure, about 5 feet long and weighing over 225 pounds, still raises questions that scientists cannot immediately answer. Because it is the only known terracotta figure in a reclining posture, its restoration process received special attention from experts. And then, an unexpected discovery occurred. While examining the figure's abdomen, an archaeologist noticed a fingerprint clearly visible on the terracotta surface. At first, he thought it might have been his own fingerprint left accidentally during the research process. But after careful comparison, experts confirmed that it was actually the fingerprint of the craftsman who created the statue more than 2,000 years ago. This small discovery immediately opened a completely new line of research. Although the exact identity of the artisan cannot be determined, experts believe, based on the fingerprint's characteristics, that the maker of the figure may have been a teenager. By comparing this with historical records from the Qin dynasty, researchers found that due to the enormous labor demand during the construction of Qin Shi Huang's massive mausoleum, many teenagers were recruited to help produce terracotta figures. That fingerprint is like a message from the past, helping researchers better understand the ordinary people who contributed to one of the greatest archaeological monuments in human history. In addition, experts also found traces of lacquer on the figure's arms, providing further insight into the techniques and finishing processes used in Qin dynasty terracotta production. After years of study, the museum in Xi'an proposed an interesting hypothesis. They suggest that this may not be a warrior figure at all, but rather an acrobat or court entertainer. This theory gains further support from more recent discoveries of additional performing artist figures, as well as about 15 musician statues found in the same excavation area. This suggests that the afterlife world prepared by Qin Shi Huang was not only filled with soldiers, horses, and weapons. The famous emperor also appears to have wanted to bring along the entertainment and pleasures he enjoyed in life. And this unusual reclining figure has become one of the most important clues, helping us better understand the life, culture, and hidden secrets within this massive burial complex that has existed for over 2,000 years. The 2,000-year-old mystery coin that may preserve the true face of Jesus Christ. For nearly 2,000 years, billions of people around the world have been familiar with images of Jesus Christ depicted in paintings, sculptures, and famous religious artworks. However, surprisingly, no one actually knows what Jesus truly looked like. The Bible does not describe his physical appearance in detail, and the familiar images we see today only began to appear centuries after his death. Because of this, any clue related to the real appearance of this famous historical figure can immediately spark major debate among researchers. And then, a small bronze coin dating back to the 1st century unexpectedly became the center of a long-standing controversy lasting many years. What makes it especially intriguing is that some researchers believe this coin may preserve the only authentic depiction of Jesus Christ that has survived to the present day. The story begins with an ancient coin discovered in the region once belonging to the ancient kingdom of Edessa, located in what is now southeastern Turkey. For many years, scholars believed that the bearded face engraved on the coin represented King Manu, a ruler who governed the kingdom during the 1st century AD. Everything seemed settled, until British historian Ralph Ellis began a nearly 30-year-long investigation. Imagine this. What if one of the most famous figures in human history was actually a king from antiquity that we had never considered before? That is the bold hypothesis Ellis proposed after decades of studying historical documents, legends, and surviving ancient records. According to Ralph Ellis, King Manu and Jesus Christ may actually have been the same person. To test this theory, he compared extensive historical data, analyzed stories passed down through generations, and examined details related to the lives of both figures. His findings led him to believe that there are too many similarities between them for it to be mere coincidence. If this claim is correct, then the controversial ancient coin would carry extraordinary significance. It could represent the only known portrait of Jesus created during his lifetime or very close to his era. This would make it one of the most important discoveries in both Christian history and human history as a whole. One detail that particularly caught Ellis's attention was the crown depicted on the figure's head on the coin. According to him, the crowns worn by the kings of Edessa were made from thorn-like branches. This led him to associate it with the well-known Christian narrative in which Jesus was forced to wear a crown of thorns before his crucifixion. Ellis argues that the shared symbolism of the crown of thorns between the two figures may not be coincidental. He considers this one of the key clues linking King Manu and Jesus Christ, and it became a central argument in his controversial research. However, not everyone agrees with his hypothesis. Since Ralph Ellis published his book presenting this theory in the United States in 2012, he has faced strong criticism from many historians and scholars. Critics argue that the theory contains several inconsistencies, particularly regarding chronology and historical timelines between the life of Jesus and the reign of King Manu. Nevertheless, Ellis has stood by his interpretation. He argues that any theory that challenges a traditional narrative passed down for more than 1,500 years will naturally face skepticism and resistance. From his perspective, however, there is still enough historical evidence to justify further investigation into the possible connection between the two figures. To this day, the mystery of Jesus Christ's true face remains unsolved. The ancient coin from Edessa in modern-day Turkey continues to spark debate among scholars. But whether Ralph Ellis's theory is correct or not, this discovery serves as a reminder that history is full of unexpected mysteries. Sometimes, even a small coin that has remained untouched for nearly 2,000 years can reignite a major debate about one of the most famous figures in human history. The Ghost Village. Beneath a lake in Italy, the mystery of an ancient town that appears only a few times a century. There are cities swallowed by deserts. There are civilizations buried beneath the ocean for thousands of years. But in the beautiful Tuscany region of Italy, there exists a strange village that only appears once every few decades, before disappearing again as if it had never existed. What makes it even more extraordinary is that this village is not a legend or folklore. It still exists today, lying silently beneath the waters of a massive lake. In the Garfagnana area of the province of Lucca, in Tuscany, Italy, there is an ancient village called Figurine. At first glance, it looks like hundreds of other historic villages across Italy. But its fate is completely different. For more than 70 years, it has spent most of its time submerged underwater, only reappearing on extremely rare occasions. Few people know that Figurine dates back to the 13th century. For generations, people lived peacefully here among the green mountains of northern Italy. Stone houses, churches, cemeteries, stone bridges, and narrow roads witnessed centuries of local life. But everything changed in 1947 when a dam construction project on the Idron River was launched to generate hydroelectric power and provide water storage in case of fires or drought. After the dam was completed, an artificial reservoir called Lago di Vogli was created. Imagine for a moment that your hometown was about to be completely submerged underwater. How would you feel? That was exactly what the people of Figurine faced at the time. All residents were forced to leave the village their families had lived in for generations and relocate to a new town called Vogli di Sotto, located near the lake. As the water began to rise, streets, houses, and historic buildings slowly disappeared beneath the surface. From that moment on, Figurine became a true ghost town. Under approximately 9 billion gallons of water in Lago di Vogli, an entire centuries-old community was swallowed in silence. What made this place famous worldwide is an extremely rare phenomenon. Since the reservoir was created, the lake has only been fully drained 4 times for dam maintenance in 1958, 1974, 1983, and 1994. Each time this happened, an astonishing scene emerged. As the water level slowly dropped, the remains of the ancient village began to rise from the lakebed like a forgotten city of time. Stone walls, old streets, bridges, cemeteries, churches, and even a bell tower gradually reappeared before visitors' eyes, as if they had stepped through a time portal. The most recent time Figurine resurfaced was in 1994. The event attracted thousands of visitors from all over Tuscany. Many people spent hours walking through streets that had been submerged for decades. Photographs taken at the time showed that most structures were remarkably well preserved despite being underwater for such a long time. After 1994, the village once again disappeared beneath the water and returned to its silence. There were plans to drain the lake again in 2016, which created great anticipation among the public. However, the plan was ultimately cancelled, postponing the chance to witness the ghost village once more. Even so, hope has not completely faded. The energy company Enel, which owns the dam at Lago di Vagli, has stated that it may still consider draining the lake in the future. The goal would not only be maintenance, but also to boost tourism in the region. After all, it is difficult for anyone to resist the appeal of a 13th century village that appears only a few times over more than a century, before disappearing once again into the deep water. And who knows, someday soon, Fabrice de Caragine may rise from the lake once more, continuing its unfinished story for the modern world to witness. Because after all, the ancient world is full of mysteries we have yet to uncover. As you can see, even though science and technology have advanced tremendously in modern times, there are still many mysteries from the past that humanity has not yet been able to fully solve. From ancient tombs buried for thousands of years, to strange fossils and artifacts that continue to spark endless debate among scientists, everything shows that history still holds countless discoveries waiting to be uncovered. So in your opinion, which archaeological discovery on today's list is the most astonishing? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy mysterious stories about history and archaeology, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next exciting journey of discovery. For now, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.